I died in the cold winter of my senior year, buried under the heavy snow that covered the entire city. No one remembered me. No one mourned for me. In my previous life, I was a hidden wealthy daughter who was deliberately abandoned by my family. I disguised myself as an ordinary poor student and entered the top-key high school, hoping to spend my youth peacefully and obtain a clean college admission by my own efforts. But I never expected that my low-key and forbearance would be regarded as cowardice and weakness. The school's popular campus belle, Zhang Shuang, and her group of rich and powerful followers targeted me for no reason. They framed me for stealing examination answers, spread malicious rumors about my private life, isolated me in the dormitory and classroom, and even carried out endless campus bullying in secret corners. My childish and sincere first love, Gu Shichen, the top student and school grass whom I had a crush on for 3 years, chose to stand by and watch all the bullying. He believed all the false rumors fabricated by Zhang Shuang. He thought I was a vain, scheming, and despicable girl. He publicly distanced himself from me in front of the whole grade, and even helped Zhang Shuang speak for her, accusing me of clinging to him deliberately to climb the social ladder. I endured 3 years of endless bullying, isolation, and misunderstanding. I lost my reputation, my college admission qualification was revoked due to false charges, and I suffered from severe depression and physical collapse. On the night before the college entrance examination, I was pushed down the rooftop by Zhang Shuang's followers. The school covered up the truth for the powerful Zhang family. Gu Shichen never asked about my death, never felt a trace of guilt, and finally walked into a top university hand in hand with Zhang Shuang. The only person who secretly cried for me, silently guarded me, and tried to help me countless times was Lu Xinyan, the cold and withdrawn top wealthy young master who was always alone in the corner of the classroom. He was the male second who was obscure in my previous ignorant youth, the only person who saw all my grievances and persistence, the only one who kept all the truth in his heart but never had time to tell me. Before I died, I saw him kneel in the heavy snow, holding my cold body, red-eyed and desperate, confronting the entire Zhang family and the indifferent school alone. He lost his calm and pride for me, exhausted all his resources to investigate the truth, and finally ruined the Zhang family's future at the cost of part of his own family interests. But all repentance and redemption came too late. I was already dead, buried in the unremarkable snow, with no chance to start over. Regret drowned me at the last moment of my life. I regretted my cowardly forbearance, regretted my blind crush on a cold-hearted person, regretted failing to see the sincere tenderness hidden in Lu Xinyan's cold eyes, regretted wasting my entire youth on wrong people and trivial grievances. If I could do it all over again, I would never compromise, never be wronged, never chase the wrong person, and never let the one who truly loves me suffer alone. The moment the thought fell, the heavy snow in my vision suddenly shattered. The cold wind disappeared, the pain of falling from a height faded, and the desperate darkness was replaced by the bright sunlight of early summer. I opened my eyes and found myself sitting in the familiar classroom of Senior 1, the desk covered with brand new textbooks and the noisy youthful voices of classmates coming from my ears. I'm reborn. I returned to the first year of high school, 3 years before all the bullying and tragedy happened, before all the misunderstandings and regrets took root. This time, I will tear off my low-key disguise, crush all bullying and frame-ups with absolute strength, let all those who hurt me pay a bloody price, and firmly hold the sincere love that I missed in my previous life. No more cowardice, no more compromise, no more wrong love. This life, I only live for myself, and only cherish the people who truly cherish me. Hashtag Chapter 1 Rebirth back to Senior 1. Wake up from the tragedy. The classroom fan whirled slowly, bringing a faint cool breeze, and the chalk dust floated in the golden sunlight. The head teacher stood on the podium, seriously emphasizing the discipline of the new semester, and the students below were whispering and chatting lazily. I stared at the familiar blackboard and the date marked on the corner of the textbook, September 10th, the second week of Senior 1's new semester. It was the starting point of all misfortunes in my previous life. In a few days, Zhang Shuang would take the initiative to find fault with me because I accidentally sat in her exclusive seat during the break, and then began her 3-year-long campus bullying and framing. In my previous life, I was afraid of causing trouble and chose to apologize and give in repeatedly, which made Zhang Shuang think I was easy to bully and intensified her persecution of me. And Gu Shichen, the male god of the grade sitting in the front row, would witness the whole process of my being bullied. He chose to ignore it and even thought I was fawning on Zhang Shuang for preferential treatment. From then on, the misunderstanding between us took root, and all the malice in the campus rushed towards me overwhelmingly. My fingers stroked the smooth textbook page, and the coldness in my eyes gradually settled. This life, everything is different. I am no longer the weak, low-key, and forbearing Sue, one who was afraid of trouble and dared not resist. I know all the plots, all the hypocrisy and malice of everyone, all the hidden truths and unspoken tenderness. My gaze swept across the classroom calmly and finally landed on the last row by the window. Lu Xinyan was leaning lazily on the chair, his black shirt collar slightly loose, his slender fingers casually turning over a professional financial magazine that was completely inconsistent with high school textbooks. His side face was cold and sharp, his eyelashes long and dense, and his deep eyes were covered with a layer of indifferent alienation, as if all the noise and hustle and bustle of the classroom had nothing to do with him. He was always like this in high school, withdrawn, cold, untouchable, and out of place with all the youthful chaos. No one knew that this cold and indifferent boy was the young master of the top wealthy Liu family, whose power and status far surpassed the arrogant Zhang family. No one knew that under his cold appearance, there was the most sincere and gentle heart in the whole school, which had been quietly guarding me for 3 full years. In my previous life, I was ignorant and blind, staring at the bright and dazzling Gu Shichen, completely ignoring the lonely figure who silently stood behind me countless times. Now, I look at him quietly, and a faint and warm astringency surges in my heart. This time, I won't miss you again. At this moment, the classroom door was pushed open with a bang. Zhang Shuang walked in surrounded by a group of followers, her long hair fluttering, wearing a limited edition designer dress, with a proud and arrogant posture, like a little queen dominating the classroom. She was the daughter of a mid-tier wealthy family, spoiled and domineering since childhood, used to being the center of attention in the school, and no one dared to disobey her. Her eyes swept across the classroom casually, and finally locked on me, with obvious disdain and contempt in her eyes. In her eyes, I was just an ordinary poor student with no background, no status, dull and humble, the best target for her to vent her boredom and show her dominance. She walked straight towards my seat, her high-heeled shoes stepping on the floor with a clear and arrogant sound. The whole classroom instantly fell silent. All the students knew that Zhang Shuang was going to find trouble again. Many people cast sympathetic and mocking glances at me, waiting to see me apologize and give in as usual. Gu Shichen, sitting in the front row, also turned his head casually, his clean and handsome face indifferent, with no intention of intervening or questioning. In his eyes, all campus conflicts are trivial farces, and I, an ordinary student, are not worth his attention at all. Zhang Shuang stopped in front of my desk, raised her chin arrogantly, and said in a condescending tone, "Su Wan, get up. This seat is mine. I don't like people sitting in my exclusive seat." In my previous life, I was flustered and hurriedly stood up to apologize, explaining that I didn't know it was her seat, and took the initiative to move my desk to the corner. But this time, I sat firmly in my seat, didn't move an inch, raised my eyes calmly, and looked straight at her arrogant face. My tone was flat, without any fluster or compromise, cold and powerful. The school arranges seats uniformly. There is no exclusive seat for anyone. If you want to change seats, go to the head teacher to apply. Don't make trouble here. As soon as my words fell, the whole classroom was stunned. Everyone's eyes widened in shock, never expecting that the always quiet and well-behaved Su Wan would dare to talk back to Zhang Shuang. Zhang Shuang's face froze instantly, and her pride was greatly offended. Her eyes turned cold and fierce. "Su Wan, do you dare to talk to me like that? Do you know who I am? I can make you drop out of school with a single word." Her followers also gathered around, staring at me fiercely, echoing loudly, "That's right. Don't be shameless. Hurry up and apologize to Sistering. A poor student who has nothing dares to be arrogant in front of us. You are tired of living." Facing the group of people's blatant intimidation, I didn't have the slightest fear. The corners of my lips curled up into a faint, cold smile. Threats? In my previous life, I was tortured by these threats for 3 years and finally lost my life. This life, I will let these people taste the price of threatening others. Hashtag Chapter 2 First Face Slapping, Crushing Campus Bullying. I slowly stood up, my slender figure straight and tall, without the slightest trace of cowardice and humbleness from before. My cold eyes swept over Zhang Shuang and her followers one by one, and my clear voice spread throughout the quiet classroom. The school has clear rules and regulations, and no student is allowed to occupy seats arbitrarily or bully classmates. You take the initiative to make trouble, threaten classmates, and violate school discipline first. You say you can make me drop out with a single word? Do you think the school discipline and national education rules are your family's private toys? Every word was sonorous and powerful, hitting Zhang Shuang's arrogant face hard. Zhang Shuang's face turned red and white alternately, extremely embarrassed. She had always been domineering in the school and had never been contradicted and humiliated like this by an ordinary student. She was so angry that her whole body trembled, and she raised her hand angrily, trying to slap me in the face. In my previous life, this slap fell firmly on my face in full view of everyone, making me the laughingstock of the whole grade, and also letting Zhang Shuang completely confirm that I was a bully who could be bullied at will. But this time, I grabbed her wrist accurately and forcefully before her palm fell. My strength was great, and I pinched her wrist tightly, making her unable to move at all. The severe pain made her scream out loud. "Ah, it hurts. Let me go. Su Wan, you dare to touch me?" I looked at her distorted face due to pain and anger, and my tone was cold and heartless. "I only fight back when people attack me. If you dare to do it again, I don't mind letting the whole school see your ugly face of bullying classmates." The students in the classroom were completely shocked, staring at me in disbelief. The usually weak and silent Su Wan was actually so tough. She even dared to fight back against Zhang Shuang. Gu Shichen in the front row also frowned slightly, turning his head to look at me with a trace of surprise in his eyes. He had always thought I was a dull, timid, and submissive girl, but at this moment, the sharpness and coldness in my eyes completely broke his inherent impression of me. But there was no appreciation in his eyes, only faint disgust and dislike. In his opinion, a girl who is aggressive and dares to fight with others in public is rude and unrefined, far inferior to Zhang Shuang's bright and generous appearance. He opened his mouth slightly, intending to persuade me to admit my mistake and reconcile, to save Zhang Shuang's face. But before he could speak, a cold and lazy voice suddenly came from the last row of the classroom. Mind your own business. Lu Shenyan put down the magazine in his hand, raised his cold eyes, and glanced at Gu Shichen lightly. His eyes were deep and cold, with a faint sense of oppression, which instantly suppressed Gu Shichen's words. Gu Shichen's body froze slightly, and he subconsciously closed his mouth. He didn't dare to confront Lu Shenyan. Although Lu Shenyan was low-key and unknown, his indifferent aura and invisible family background made no one in the school dare to provoke him easily. After suppressing Gu Shichen, Lu Shenyan's gaze fell on me lightly, his cold eyes carrying a trace of imperceptible worry and protection. My heart warmed slightly. Even in the first week of school, even when I hadn't had any intersection with him, he was still the first person to stand behind me silently. Zhang Shuang didn't notice Lu Shenyan's protection. She was still struggling angrily. Su Wan, you let me go immediately. Otherwise, I will make you pay the price. I didn't let go, but increased my strength slightly and said coldly, apologize. What? Zhang Shuang was stunned, as if she had heard the biggest joke in the world. You want me to apologize to you? Dream on. If you don't apologize, I will call the head teacher and the grade director now, and take the video recorded by the classroom monitor as evidence to report you for campus bullying. I glanced at the classroom monitor in the corner, who was already holding a mobile phone to record the whole process, and continued in a calm tone. Your family has just started to cooperate with the school's public welfare project. If the school reports your bullying behavior to the Education Bureau and publicizes it, do you think your family's cooperation project will be affected? I knew all the Zhang family's current development plans and weaknesses clearly. In order to gain a good social reputation, the Zhang family attached great importance to the school's public welfare cooperation. Once the bullying scandal was exposed, their reputation would be severely damaged, and the cooperation project would be terminated directly. Zhang Shuang's face finally turned pale completely. She looked at me in horror, never expecting that I, an ordinary poor student, would know these things clearly and even dare to threaten her with her family's interests. She was arrogant but not stupid. She knew the consequences of the exposure were unbearable for her family. After struggling violently in her heart, she finally gritted her teeth and said reluctantly, I'm sorry. The voice was small and vague, full of grievance and anger. Speak louder, look at me, and apologize sincerely. I didn't let her go easily, with a cold and unyielding attitude. Zhang Shuang was so angry that her eyes turned red, but she had no choice but to raise her head, look straight at me, and apologize loudly and clearly. Su Wan, I'm sorry. I was wrong just now. I shouldn't have bullied you and threatened you. As soon as the apology fell, the whole classroom exploded completely. The arrogant campus belle Zhang Shuang actually apologized to the ordinary and unknown Su Wan. This is the biggest reversal and face-slapping in the history of the grade. I let go of her wrist, took out a wet wipe from my desk, and slowly wiped my fingers, with a look of disgust on my face, as if I had touched something dirty. Remember this lesson. Don't bully your classmates arbitrarily in the future, or I won't let you off easily next time. After speaking, I sat down firmly in my seat again, ignoring Zhang Shuang's distorted and resentful expression. Zhang Shuang stood there awkwardly, surrounded by the staring eyes of the whole class, and felt that her face was completely lost. She gritted her teeth and stared at me fiercely, turning around and running out of the classroom with her followers in embarrassment. Everyone knew that from today on, Su Wan was no longer the soft persimmon that anyone could pinch at will. And I knew clearly in my heart that this was just the beginning. All the malice and bullying I suffered in my previous life will be doubled and returned in this life. Hashtag Chapter 3 Wrong Love Abandoned, Forsaken the Passer-by Male God. After class, the classroom was noisy again. Many students gathered together to discuss the big reversal in the morning class, and their attitude towards me changed completely from the previous indifference and contempt to fear and curiosity. Gu Shichen turned around, looked at me with a cold and distant expression, and said in a slightly reproachful tone, Su Wan, you were too aggressive just now. Shuang is just willful and coquettish. You shouldn't humiliate her in public and make her lose face. In my previous life, when he said this sentence, I was flustered and blamed myself crazily. I thought I was too impulsive and offended others casually, and I took the initiative to apologize to Gu Shichen and Zhang Shuang, which made me more humble. But now, after experiencing a lifetime of tragedy and death, I only feel extremely ridiculous when I hear his words. Aggressive? Humiliating others? When Zhang Shuang bullied me, threatened me, and wanted to slap me, he thought it was just willful coquetry. When I resisted self-defense and safeguarded my dignity, I became aggressive and unrefined. This is the so-called gentle and kind top student male god in everyone's eyes. Double standards, blind and partial, cold and heartless. I raised my eyes, looked at his handsome and indifferent face, and completely let go of the 3-year ignorant crush in my heart. The youthful love that I had obsessed over for 3 years in my previous life was so cheap and ridiculous in hindsight. I spoke indifferently, without the slightest tenderness and admiration for him. Gu Shichen, it's none of your business how I get along with others. You don't need to judge my behavior arbitrarily. And it's not me who is wrong from beginning to end. It's Zhang Shuang who took the initiative to bully others. I only defended myself. Gu Shichen was stunned by my cold attitude. He had always been used to my quiet and gentle appearance, and never thought that I would speak to him so coldly and distantly, and even openly refute his words. A trace of displeasure flashed in his eyes, and his tone became colder. You are really unreasonable. No wonder others say you are withdrawn and weird. After speaking, he turned around directly, ignoring me completely, as if talking to me was a kind of disgrace. I watched his back indifferently, without the slightest grievance or heartache. Good riddance. From today on, Gu Shichen is just a passerby in my life, no longer my obsession, no longer my regret. All my tenderness and cherishment in this life will only be left to the person who truly deserves it. My gaze unconsciously drifted to the last row by the window again. Lu Shenyan was still sitting there alone, his slender fingers tapping the desk lightly, his deep eyes quietly falling on me, with a faint and gentle light that no one could detect. When our eyes met, he didn't dodge or avoid, but nodded slightly at me, a rare faint and shallow smile flashing across his cold and indifferent face. My heart skipped a beat instantly, and the corners of my mouth rose unconsciously. This is the most precious tenderness in my 2 lifetimes. Hashtag Chapter 4 Dormitory Anti-Bullying, completely breaking the small group. The dormitory conflict came as scheduled in the evening. I live in a 4-person female dormitory. In my previous life, the other 3 roommates were all Zhang Shuang's followers. They united to isolate me, hid my textbooks and homework, splashed water on my bed, spoke ill of me behind my back, and cooperated with Zhang Shuang to spread rumors about me. They made my dormitory life a living hell for 3 full years. Tonight, after returning to the dormitory, the 3 roommates immediately gathered together, staring at me with cold and hostile eyes, obviously coming to avenge Zhang Shuang. The oldest roommate, Zhang Man, crossed her arms and said in a cold tone, Su-Wan, you are too arrogant today. How dare you bully Sister Ing in class? Apologize to Sister Ing immediately, or we will make you unable to stay in this dormitory. Another thin and weak-looking roommate, Li Na, echoed hypocritically. That's right, Su-Wan, Sister Ing has a good temper and doesn't care about you. You can't be ignorant. Hurry up and admit your mistake, or no one in the dormitory will talk to you in the future. The last roommate, Wang Yu, said bluntly and fiercely, if you don't apologize, we will throw all your things out of the dormitory tonight. In my previous life, I was isolated and afraid of being excluded, so I endured the grievance and apologized again, which made them more and more unscrupulous in bullying me. But this life, I have long seen through their hypocrisy and meanness. I put down my school bag slowly, raised my eyes, and glanced at the 3 of them coldly. First, I didn't bully anyone today. I only defended myself against unreasonable bullying. Second, the dormitory is a public dormitory arranged by the school. You have no right to drive me away or touch my things. Third, if you dare to move my things or isolate and bully me again, I will directly report all your behaviors to the dormitory supervisor and the grade director, and let the school deal with you publicly. The 3 roommates' faces changed instantly, never expecting that I would be so tough and unyielding today. Zhang Man frowned angrily. Su-Wan, you are getting more and more presumptuous. Do you really think we dare not touch you? As she spoke, she raised her hand to grab my quilt on the bed. I moved faster than her, grabbed her wrist first, and pushed her away forcefully. Zhang Man staggered back several steps and almost fell to the ground. Try again. My tone was cold and threatening, with undeniable deterrence. At this moment, the dormitory door was suddenly pushed open. The dormitory supervisor stood at the door with a serious face, followed by several grade managers. The 3 roommates were instantly panicked, their faces turning pale with fright. They didn't know that I had expected their revenge in advance. Before returning to the dormitory, I had already reported their possible bullying behavior to the dormitory supervisor and submitted the pre-recorded chat evidence of their previous private slander and isolation of me. The dormitory supervisor stared at the 3 of them sternly and said in a cold voice, I have received a report that the 3 of you have long-term campus isolation and bullying of your roommates, privately speaking ill of others, and disrupting the dormitory order. Come with me to the grade office to accept punishment. No, teacher, it's not true. It's Su-Wan who is framing us. Zhang Man cried and defended in panic. Framing. The dormitory supervisor took out the chat record evidence and disciplinary rules. All the evidence is conclusive. The school will record a serious demerit for each of you, inform the whole grade, and order you to write a 5,000-word self-criticism. If there is another bullying behavior, you'll be directly suspended. The 3 roommates were completely desperate, their legs weak with fear, standing in place at a loss. They originally wanted to bully me and take revenge for Zhang Shuang, but they didn't expect to be completely defeated by me, and even got serious school punishment. From then on, the small bullying group in the dormitory completely collapsed. The 3 roommates never dared to provoke me again. They were trembling and cautious in front of me every day, completely lost their previous arrogance. I completely eliminated the hidden dangers of dormitory bullying in advance, and my dormitory life finally got rid of the darkness of my previous life. Hashtag Chapter 5 Full Score Counterattack, academic crushing all rivals. A week later, the first monthly exam of Senior 1 came as scheduled. In my previous life, because I was bullied and isolated for a long time, I was in a bad mood and couldn't concentrate on studying. I got mediocre grades in the monthly exam and was ridiculed by Jiang Shuang and her followers for being stupid and useless, wasting school resources. Jiang Shuang relied on her family's cram school resources to get the 3rd grade in the whole grade, and publicly mocked me in front of the whole class, saying that people of humble origin are destined to be mediocre and unable to compete with the noble. Gu Shichen firmly occupied the 1st place in the grade, and he also looked down on my poor grades, completely dismissing me. But this life is completely different. I have experienced the pain of dropping out due to false charges, and I know the importance of academic achievements better than anyone else. In addition, I have the mature thinking and learning experience of my previous life, and the knowledge of Senior 1 is extremely simple and easy for me. During the exam, I answered every question smoothly and quickly, with clear thinking and standard answers. I finished all the papers in advance every time and checked them carefully. After the exam, Jiang Shuang still looked arrogant and complacent, mocking me in front of many classmates. Some people are arrogant in class, but their grades are definitely rubbish. After the results come out, I'll see if she still has the face to be arrogant. Her followers echoed and ridiculed me one after another, waiting to see me make a fool of myself. Gu Shichen also thought that my grades would be mediocre, and he didn't pay any attention to me, still immersed in his top student halo. Only Lu Xinyan, after hearing their ridicule, glanced at them coldly, then looked at me quietly, with firm trust in his deep eyes. He knew I was different, knew I was hiding amazing strength under my calm appearance. 3 days later, the exam results were officially announced on the grade public screen. The moment the ranking list was refreshed, the whole grade fell into dead silence, followed by an explosive uproar. The 1st place in the whole grade is not Gu Shichen, nor Jiang Shuang, but me, Su Wan. I got a full score in mathematics, physics, and chemistry, with a total score 38 points higher than the 2nd place Gu Shichen. Jiang Shuang, who was originally ranked 3rd, directly fell to more than 50th place in the grade, with a terrible grade decline. The whole grade was completely shocked. No one expected that the ordinary and unknown Su Wan would suddenly counterattack and win the 1st place in the grade with an absolute crushing advantage. Jiang Shuang's face turned pale on the spot, her whole body trembling with embarrassment and anger. The ridicule she had prepared for me all fell on herself, making her the biggest joke of the whole grade. Gu Shichen stared at the ranking list in disbelief, his handsome face full of shock and loss. He had always been proud of his academic performance and thought he was the well-deserved top student of the grade, but he was completely crushed by me in this exam. His previous contempt and disdain for me became extremely ridiculous at this moment. The teacher in charge of the grade personally came to the classroom to praise me publicly. Su Wan is the biggest dark horse of this monthly exam. With excellent grades and solid foundation, she has set the best example for all students in the grade. All the students looked at me with admiration and shock, completely reversing their previous prejudice against me. I stood calmly in the classroom, accepting all the praise and attention calmly, without the slightest pride or complacency. My gaze crossed the noisy crowd accurately and landed on the last row by the window. Lu Xinyan was looking at me with a faint smile in his deep eyes, his eyes full of gentle appreciation and joy. The sunlight outside the window fell on his cold and handsome face, softening his alienated aura, making him extremely warm and dazzling. My heart was filled with steady warmth. All my efforts and counterattacks are not only for revenge, but also for standing side by side with the person who truly loves me in the brightest way. Hashtag Chapter 6 Fake Repentance and True Malice, completely exposing the green tea scheme. After my academic counterattack, Jiang Shuang completely fell into embarrassment and jealousy. She was unwilling to be crushed by me in grades and lose her status as a campus belle, so she began to play green tea schemes in front of teachers and classmates. She took the initiative to find the head teacher, pretending to be sensible and repentant, saying that she had a bad attitude before, was too willful, and hoped to reconcile with me, and hoped that I could forgive her youthful recklessness. In front of the classmates, she pretended to be gentle and kind, and frequently took the initiative to talk to me and give me gifts, creating an illusion that she was broad-minded and willing to let bygones be bygones. Many simple classmates were deceived by her disguise and began to persuade me. Su Wan, sistering has already apologized to you, so don't hold grudges anymore. Je te reconcilie. Gu Shichen also completely believed her disguise and felt that Jiang Shuang was kind and generous, while I was cold and narrow-minded. He took the initiative to come to me again, with a tone of persuasion and blame. Su Wan, Shuang has taken the initiative to bow her head to you. Don't be too unforgiving. She is already very embarrassed after her grades dropped. You should be more tolerant. I looked at Gu Shichen's ignorant and partial appearance, and felt more and more fortunate that I had let go of this wrong crush. He is blind and ignorant and can never see the true face of people. I glanced at him lightly and said indifferently, "Whether I forgive her or not is my business. It has nothing to do with you. Please don't meddle in my affairs again." After speaking, I turned around and left directly, ignoring his ugly and stunned expression. I know clearly that Jiang Shuang's so-called repentance is all fake. In my previous life, she also pretended to reconcile with me after I got good grades, gained my trust, and then secretly framed me for cheating in the exam, making me suffer huge public opinion pressure and school punishment. This life, I will never fall for her trick again. Sure enough, on the second day after she pretended to reconcile, she secretly copied my homework and exam notes, modified the content slightly, and took the initiative to hand it to the teacher, falsely accusing me of plagiarizing her learning results. She deliberately chose to make trouble when all the grade teachers were present, trying to discredit my top student reputation and make me lose all honors. In the teacher's office, Zhang Shuang's eyes were red, and she pretended to be wronged and aggrieved. Teacher, I really don't want to care about it, but Suwon has been copying my study notes. This monthly exam result is definitely not her real level. She plagiarized my results to get the first place. Many teachers looked at me with doubtful and suspicious eyes for a while, and the atmosphere in the office became extremely tense. Gu Shichen, who followed to watch the excitement, also frowned, looking at me with suspicion and disappointment, as if he had confirmed that I was cheating. Facing everyone's doubtful eyes, I was extremely calm, without the slightest fluster. I took out my mobile phone, opened the timestamp study records and draft materials I had saved in advance, and projected them on the office screen. All my study notes and exam draft records have timestamps from 1 month ago. At that time, you hadn't even started sorting out the knowledge points. In contrast, your so-called original notes were modified and copied last night. The timestamp is only 8 hours ago, and there are obvious traces of erasure and modification. I pointed to the clear time difference and modification traces on the screen, and my voice was clear and powerful. You falsely accuse me of plagiarizing your results, but in fact, you're the one who copies others and falsely accuses innocent people. After I finished speaking, all the teachers checked the evidence carefully, and their faces instantly turned cold. The evidence was clear and irrefutable, completely exposing Zhang Shuang's false accusation and green tea scheme. Zhang Shuang's face turned pale and bloodless in an instant, and her whole body trembled with fear, completely losing her previous aggrieved disguise. No, it's not like this. Teacher, I was wronged. Suwon is framing me. She cried and defended in panic, but all her words were weak and powerless in front of the solid evidence. The grade director was extremely angry and severely criticized her on the spot. You not only have poor grades and bully classmates, but also falsely accuse excellent students and disrupt the school's examination style and discipline. From today on, cancel all your school honors, record a serious demerit, and notify the whole school to criticize. The green tea scheme completely failed, and Zhang Shuang's reputation was completely ruined in the school. Gu Shichen stood aside, his face full of embarrassment and shock. He finally realized that he had wrongly blamed me again, and that Zhang Shuang's kindness and repentance were all fake disguises. He raised his eyes and looked at me with a trace of regret and guilt in his eyes, wanting to apologize to me. But I didn't give him any look, turned around, and left the office directly. His regret and apology are meaningless to me now. I have long walked out of the shadow of wrong love and misunderstanding, and no longer care about his thoughts and attitudes. Hashtag Chapter 7 Male Seconds Gentle Guard, Heartwarming Salvation. After the false accusation incident, Zhang Shuang completely fell into despair and embarrassment. Her followers left her one after another. No one was willing to associate with a hypocritical and scheming person who falsely accused classmates. She lost her campus belle reputation, school honors, and all the glory she had in the past, and became a joke that the whole school talked about after dinner. She hated me to the bone, but she didn't dare to take the initiative to provoke me again. Every time she saw me, she could only hide far away in embarrassment and fear. The campus bullying that plagued me for 3 years in my previous life was completely eliminated by me in the first month of Senior 1. My campus life finally bid farewell to all darkness and malice and ushered in bright and smooth sunshine. And Lu Xinyan's gentle guard towards me has never stopped. He is always quietly guarding me in every corner I can see or not see. When I was studying late in the classroom, he would silently prepare a cup of warm milk tea and put it on my desk, never leaving his name, only quietly watching me finish drinking in the corner. When someone secretly talks bad about me behind my back, he will coldly stop them with his powerful aura, making those people dare not slander me again. When I encounter difficult study problems, he will quietly put detailed problem-solving ideas on my desk, with neat handwriting and clear logic. He is cold and indifferent to everyone in the school, but only gentle and careful to me. All his tenderness is unique and exclusive to me. One evening after self-study class, it suddenly rained heavily. I forgot to bring an umbrella and planned to wait for the rain to stop at the classroom corridor. The students in the classroom left one after another, and soon only I was left in the corridor. Just as I was watching the heavy rain in a daze, a black umbrella gently covered the top of my head. A cold and low magnetic voice sounded above my head, with rare gentle softness. "It's raining heavily. I'll take you back to the dormitory." I raised my head and met Lu Xinyan's deep and warm eyes. The rain curtain was hazy, the evening wind was cool, but his eyes were extremely warm and bright, like the only starlight in the dark night. My heart beat faster unconsciously, and I nodded slightly with a smile. "Okay, thank you." He held the umbrella in one hand and naturally leaned the umbrella towards my side. Most of the umbrella surface covered my body, while his left shoulder was completely soaked by the heavy rain. I noticed his wet shoulder, quickly pushed the umbrella towards him, and said softly, "Your shoulder is wet. Lean over a little." He looked at my concerned eyes, the cold corners of his mouth curved up slightly, and his voice became softer. "It's okay, I'm not cold. Don't get wet." We walked side by side in the heavy rain, the corridor lights pulling our long shadows, overlapping and clinging to each other. The whole world was noisy with rain, but the atmosphere between us was quiet and warm. I took the initiative to break the silence and looked at him seriously. Lu Xinyan, thank you for always guarding me silently. I know all his tenderness and dedication, all his silent protection and persistence. He paused slightly, turned his head to look at me, his deep eyes full of serious and pious tenderness. Su Wan, I have been waiting for you to see me. As long as you need, I will always be here. His simple words carried the most sincere and heavy affection, hitting my heart directly. In my previous life, I was ignorant and missed him. In this life, I am sober and cherish him. I looked at his deep eyes seriously and said word by word, now I see you, and I won't miss you again. The rain was still falling, but the hearts of both of us were completely illuminated by tenderness. Hashtag Chapter 8 Regret Crematorium of the Wrong Male Lead. As I got closer and closer to Lu Xinyan, Gu Shichen's regret and unease became stronger and stronger. He finally completely woke up from his blind prejudice. He saw through Jiang Shuang's hypocritical green tea appearance, saw her meanness and malice clearly, and also saw my excellence, sobriety, and strength thoroughly. He found that I was far more beautiful, excellent, and attractive than he had always thought. I have outstanding academic performance, calm and tough character, clear and transparent mind, and never scheme or frame others. All my counterattacks are just self-defense and safeguarding my dignity. Compared with Jiang Shuang's vanity and hypocrisy, I am the real clean and excellent girl. He began to regret crazily, regret his previous blindness and prejudice, regret his indifference and alienation to me, regret missing the most shining girl in